the scope and limitation of our study. Starting with the scope of the study, geographically our research covers aggregate household income across all 13 states and 3 federal territories in Malaysia. Our independent variables are strictly focused on the weekly retail prices of RON 95 petrol, diesel, and the Consumer Price Index (CPI), specifically the transport and food subcategories. Our dependent variable is real household income, analyzed across the B40, M40, and T20 income groups. The study spanned a 9-year period from March 2017 to June 2026. This specific timeline allows us to capture major policy shifts such as the transition from blanket full subsidized to targeted rationalization programs like Budi 95. Now, regarding the limitation of the study, first, because we rely entirely on secondary macroeconomic data from official government portals like Open Dossums, our study cannot capture real-time qualitative changes in consumer behavior or individual household distress. Second, there is a data alignment constraint. Retail food prices are released weekly, whereas CPI and income data are published monthly or periodically. To align this, weekly food prices must be converted into monthly arithmetic average. While necessary, this smoothing process may mask short-term weekly price spikes that immediately strain household cash flows. Next, we discuss the significance of the study, which provides both academic and practical value. From an academic perspective, where previous literature often studies food prices or inflation in isolation, our research contributes to econometric literature by simultaneously modeling the concurrent impact of petrol prices, diesel prices, and the CPI on real household income in Malaysia. It provides empirical evidence on how cost-push inflation transmits to household purchasing power, serving as a reliable benchmark for future researchers in public policy and consumer economics. From a practical standpoint, our findings benefit 3 main stakeholders. First, government and policy makers. Federal agencies like the Ministry of Finance, Bank Negara Malaysia, and DOSM can use this data to refine targeted subsidy programs such as Budi 95 and Budi Madani to better cushion vulnerable income groups. Second, commercial organizations. Industry leaders can gain insight into how energy shocks alter aggregate consumer spending, helping them optimize supply chain, logistics, and pricing models. Third, the general public. Finally, this study enhances financial literacy by helping Malaysian households, especially B40 and M40 cohorts, understand how macro energy trends affect their real purchasing power, enabling better financial planning.
Okay, hi, my name is Muhammad Fikri and I will present for literature review and background for the Malaysian economic landscape. For the fuel price and inflation, Malaysia previously used fuel subsidies to keep RON 95 and diesel price stable. And secondly, recent subsidy rationalization has led to more market-based fuel price, and higher fuel price increased transportation and production costs. And lastly, business pass this cost to consumer, causing inflation. And what are the impact on the household? Firstly, for the first category, for the B40, most affected due to limited financial resource. M40, reduced discretionary spending to cope with higher living costs. And lastly, for the T20, this affected because of higher disposable income. Moving on to the next page. Okay, hi, and for the next is theory, variables, and research framework. Theoretical foundation cost push inflation theory. Firstly is of course rising fuel price, increased production and transportation costs. Business raise product price to cover higher costs. Thirdly is inflation reduce households' purchasing power, and lastly, if wages remain unchanged, real household income decreases. And for the research variable, it consists of dependent variable and independent variable. For the dependent variable is a real household income, and for independent variable consists of three, which is petrol price, firstly, second is diesel price, and lastly consumer price index. Moving on to the next page. Okay, hi, BC again. For the last topic for me is income groups and research hypothesis. Impact by income group as three, which is income group main impact is firstly is B40, highest impact, vulnerable to fuel and food price increase, and M40 is a moderate impact, higher commuting costs, reduced saving and leisure spending, and lastly T20, which of course the lowest impact because they able to absorb rising costs. For the research hypothesis H1, petrol price have a significant negative relationship with real household income. H2, diesel price have a significant negative relationship with real household income. And H3, lastly, consumer price index has a significant negative relationship with real household income. Thank you.
Our study uses a quantitative research design because of it analyzes numerical data. We adapted an explanatory research design to examine the relationship between petrol prices, diesel prices, consumer price index or CPI, and household income in Malaysia. The study uses secondary data collected from the Department of Statistics Malaysia through OpenDosem. The unit of analysis is Malaysian households across the 13 states and 3 federal territories. This study uses 3 official datasets from OpenDosem. These include the fuel price dataset, the consumer price index dataset, and the household income and expenditure survey. To analyze the relationship between the variables, we use multiply linear regression. Household income is the dependent variable, while petrol price, diesel price, food CPI, and transport CPI are the independent variables. Household expenditure is included as a control variable to improve the accuracy of the analysis. Since the study uses official secondary data, a questionnaire pilot test is not required. Instead, we perform statistical tests before running the regression analysis. These include the VIF test to detect multicollinearity, the Akebera test for normality, and the Birch-Pagan or white test for heteroscedasticity, and a data alignment check to ensure all datasets are consistent. Okay, this Gantt chart shows the timeline for completing our research project from June to July 2026. In June, we completed the proposal planning, literature review, research framework, methodology, data collection, data analysis, and preparation of the final proposal. In July, we focused on final proofreading before submitting the proposal. The chart helps ensure that all research activities are completed according to schedule.
Hello, hi, good day everyone. I will be presenting chapter 3, starting with data collection. This study uses a quantitative research approach based on secondary data because our research focuses on national economic indicator. The data are collected from official government sources, including the Ministry of Finance, Malaysia, for petrol and diesel prices, and the Department of Statistics Malaysia through Open DOSM, and the Household Income and Expenditure Survey for CPI and household income data. So the study covered the period from the March 2017 until June 2026. 2026 and weekly fuel prices are converted to monthly average to ensure consistency during the analysis. Next is plan for data analysis. After the data have been collected, they will be analyzed using IBM SPSS statistic. First, the data are aligned because fuel prices are recorded weekly, while CPI and household income are available monthly. Then a diagnostic tests are carried out to ensure the data meet the assumption required for regression analysis. Finally, multiple linear regression is used to examine the relationship between petrol prices, diesel prices, CPI, and household income. Next is likely diagnostic testing and regression. Before conducting the regression analysis, three diagnostic tests are performed. The BIF test checks for multilinearity, the Jacqueline-Berra test examines data normality, and the Bruches-Pagan test detects heterochronicity. Once these assumptions are satisfied, multiple linear regression is used to test our three research hypotheses at 5% significant level and determine the impact of the independent variable on household income. Next, multiple linear regression is used to examine the relationship between the independent variable and household income. In this study, the independent variable are petrol prices, diesel prices, and the consumer price index, while household income in the independent variable. This analysis is used to test our three research hypotheses that determine whether this variable have a significant impact on household income at a 5% significant level. So next plan of the study, this can chart show the research timeline. All major activities including the literature review, methodology data collection and data analysis are planned to be completed by June 2026. So the remaining tasks in July 2026 are final proofreading and proposal submission. Lastly, in conclusion, this study aimed to examine the impact of petrol prices, diesel prices and the consumer price index on household income in Malaysia. A quantitative research approach is adopted using secondary data collected from the official government sources. The data will be analyzed using multiple linear regression to examine the relationship between the variables. It is expected that the finding will contribute to the existing literature and provide useful insight for policymakers in developing more effective fuel price policies, inflation management strategies, and household income support programmers. Thank you.